Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. This week it's pruning time. These were the new trees that we put in last year, so this is going to be their second year of growing. And today we're pruning our peach trees, and then we'll eventually get into our apple trees. But we planted an orchard here last year. I'm sure we got a video or two. You can go back and take a look at what we did when we planted. And now it's time to really start thinking about how we want to shape these trees. So today's video, I'm just going to focus in on what we're going to do to the peach trees to get a nice shape, as well as to keep the fruit at a level that's easier for us to get at. Now, these are dwarf trees. They're actually, they're not going to get very tall to begin with. So these guys are only going to be roughly not much more than they are right here, about 6 to 8 feet tall. And our idea is you can look at peach trees, you can train them two ways. You can train them on what's called a modified central leader. And if you think about it, what it means is there's a center of the tree itself that is apically dominant. And then there are branches that kind of go in a level and a whirl. Think of it almost like the levels on a screw inclined plane. And the idea is that those branches are suppressed by the apical dominance of the one on the top. Most peaches that we've seen, at least raised here in the Willamette Valley, most of the commercial growers use a different version of it. They tend to keep it more of an open center, meaning they'll take that leader out and keep it down to a lower level while encouraging these side branches to grow out and out to the side. So the overall tree will end up looking like this, with the peaches on the outside of the tree and the center of the tree basically staying open. So you get more sun involved in it, and the tree actually stays at a lower height, meaning most of the peaches that you eventually start harvesting will be more at your head or chest level and not so much up here on the upper. So the other thing about this is where we're going to go with, as I think, is we're going to go with the open center, because first of all, this tree here is near the end where our driveway tends to swoop around, and having something 8 feet tall is maybe just a little bit too much. And so we have two varieties of peach tree here. This is Veterans. The variety over here is Reliance. And these are, like I said, they're both semi-dwarf. Now, what you can see on these guys is if you look at this, hopefully it'll focus well, but the buds are already starting to swell, and this is the middle of February. So actually we're not even quite the middle of February yet. Today we're the 12th, and it is, these guys are probably gonna pop by the end of the month. We've been a little bit warmer than I'd say is normal. And so it's real important that we kind of get this straightened out today. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get rid of ones that we don't want in the structure at all. So I'm going to be looking at it saying, okay, we've got obvious small side branches here that we'll take off. The pruners we're using are Felcos, and they're number 2s. And so we're cutting, when we cut the side branches off, these little sprouts off, we're cutting it down to the base, right where there's a collar, so they'll heal right over. And then the idea is we're going to use this branch and this one, and then there's one behind it as the first level. So I'm going to be taking off any ones that are in the inside that are small like this. Get rid of those guys. Let's get my hand in the right angle there. And just kind of clean it up in general. And cats, I don't really want to cut any cattails off, so you need to get out of here. So
Penny, right?
No, that is that's Polly.
I mean, Polly. That's right.
Sweet Polly purebred.
We have so many.
And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be keeping this one, this one, this one. That'll be my 3 lower ones, and get rid of that one. And I'm on the fence on this one here. It's definitely not crossing over, and it's staying kind of out of the way. So I may think about this one, but this one's definitely got crossover potential, and it's right over this one. So I want to take this one out. If I was to keep another branch at that, I'd want something that'd be more growing at like this level, where it's clearly going to be not crossing over with the other one. So I'm looking at these guys and saying, okay, this one's on the outside, and so is this one. The one above it is a little more vigorous, so I'm going to keep that one. And I'm going to, like I said, we're going to cap this down to a more open center. So I'm going to take it right here. I think I almost need loppers for this. This guy's a little more. So the center is out. And then I'm going to take these side branches that I want to keep. Also, if there's any dead ones in the inside, get rid of those guys. I'm going to take these guys down to a third off. I'm going to cut right above the bud and cut at an angle. And then we'll take these small guys off. Because what we're going to try to do is encourage these guys to grow out and like this. So any buds here will grow outwards.
Will this be a problem if we have another cold snap?
Well, it would probably damage the blooms anyway, even if we didn't prune.
Right.
You know, so it's one of those things. So I'm taking a third of that one off and then take these side guys off.
So you're trying to mimic a place that we bought peaches for years that had very low picking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could barely maybe stand on a very small step stool to reach them. They were all pretty much just at ground level, or
right, chest height.
Chest height.
Now, some people may say, well, wait a minute, you're cutting off all these side branches, and these probably clearly are going to have blossom buds on it, but we don't want this tree to produce anything for the first couple of 3 years. And the reason behind that is we want it to put its effort into growing. So we'll keep it.
Yes, Kitty, you're making all kinds of noise in my microphone. That purring sound.
Okay, so here we go. We've kind of shaped it up. Now this branch here is maybe the joint, this in here is maybe just a bit too tight, but what we can do is kind of put a spacer in there, maybe a little piece of wood that'll kind of, begin to push it down. I like this because it's nice and open and it's not really a super tight angle. We want something eventually that's going to be more like this. So the idea here is these guys are going to grow out a little more. I'm not sure if, maybe after the second year I may take this down a little further. We'll see how this goes. But every single one of these branches are not crossing over with each other, or if they are crossing over with one below, it's really far above it. So I've got 1 layer, 2, 3. That's kind of where we're looking at. And these are going to be eventually the bigger branches. They're going to be the support branches. Okay, so the Reliance variety here is a little earlier than the Veterans because these buds are definitely further along. And I got some pictures in you showing them how they're almost getting ready to bloom. And this was a little more vigorous grower in terms of had a lot of side branching going on during the course of the summer. It's hard to believe when I planted these things that they were maybe only had a couple of side branches on them when they were stuck in the ground. So most of this is new growth from this last year. But we're going to do the same thing. As this one is going to be open center type look to it. So I want to make sure that I get rid of any of the small branches that are, crossing over on the inside. So we'll just start with cleaning that out. And then this center one here, I'm going to take this out because I'm looking at it saying, okay, here is level 1, here's level 2. This is actually, we'll call it 1.5. It's kind of at the lower level. And then we start coming up to this level up here. I got a nice branch on the outside that's about halfway up, but this would be my true second level right here. And so I'm going to take this center out.
Don't you need 3?
Well, this one's only going to have 2, I think, because of just the way they're kind of going. And then what I want to do is I want to make sure that I clean this up so that I'm looking on the outside. Like this one is almost like a new apical dominant one, and what I want it to do is I want it to grow out this way, so I want to take this one off. And then take this side guy off here. So I'm going to have the plant's going to focus its energy on growing this guy out, and I take it down a third. Take this small outside off here, kind of cut it at an angle, cut this one down a third. And now I can look at it and say, okay, here's another inside one that I don't want because it's crossing over. Now this is kind of interesting. I got a good side branch off this way. The question is, do I cut this off here and let this one go out a little more, because it'll give it a little bit wider look, and I think that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to cut this guy down to here, and then I can cut this down to a third, or at least a little more than a third off right there. Cut these guys here down at least a third. Third off of that. Actually, thinking about it, I think I want to take this guy off right here and let this grow out a little more. And this one I don't want crossing over, so and that's about a third here. And take these small guys off. And take this guy down a third. And I think that's it. So now what I got is I took that center out. I now have a branching here, scaffold here. I have one here, I have one here, and I have one here. So it'll give you a nice shape. And none of these are going to be so close that they're going to cross with each other. And that's about it. It looks like I really damaged the tree, but honestly I didn't. Seriously, by the end of the second year, we'll be out a little bit further this way. These guys will be much bigger. All these cuts will basically heal over, and in a very short period of time you won't even see them. I probably could have cut this a little closer. There, make sure that I'm right at the callus. That's where I want to be. So that's it. Peach tree pruning is pretty easy when they're at this stage. I guess, you know, the whole key to this thing again is we want to keep these guys low. We want to keep it, you know, so that we have the fruit close at hand. Any fruit that sets, we're going to thin off. I know, it's horrible. You want to get a fresh peach, but we really can't.
Just one?
Not even one. Not for this year. And there will be some buds that definitely will bloom with flowers on them, so at least it'll look pretty. So anyway, folks, that's what I wanted to kind of show you guys today. Next up, as soon as we get things cleaned up, we're going to be pruning the apples, so we'll get those guys done. And those are all going to be pruned to the modified central leader, so the apples will not be in an open fashion. They'll be significantly taller. We're talking about 8 to 10 feet and that sort of thing, because they're actually they're either semi-dwarf or dwarf. I think I have one that's dwarf.
What about pears?
And the pears are kind of pruning the same way. They'll be on the central leader type thing, but they're much slower growers. This year, the thing that grew the most aggressively was the peach, and then behind that, the Gravenstein apple grew pretty good, and so did the variety at the far end, which the name's escaping me. I got so many of these varieties, I can't remember them all. But anyway, it was our latest apple.
What about the apple that got eaten?
That was the Gravenstein. It went after it. It unfortunately took the central leader out.
So it's going to go the other way.
Well, we're going to have to retrain a new leader to it for this next year. Hopefully we can get a bud that'll that'll, you know, get it restarted back up. But yeah, they pushed into the net and they kind of zapped it. So, and this type of netting, you know, worked really well for this year, the first year, but obviously these trees are going to get bigger out. So we're going to have to come up with a whole new deer protection scheme that doesn't, you know, look too bad, but does the job. We're still got to work on that one. Anywho, thanks for being with us today. And as always, stay safe out there. We'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.